Good morning, back with another video. Yeah, so I just want to preface something before I get into this, because I know some people are going to probably look at the title and get all upset with me. I'm not blaming all women. Obviously, there's many women who are on the same side as me or us on the non-woke side, I suppose you can really call it. But yeah, I came across an interesting post last night, and it became very apparent because every single comment that had a problem with the video was female. All the men were all happy with what was happening in the video, right? So the video was one of DJE Media. I'm not really a fan of him. I think he's a bit of a tosser, but whatever. He put up a clip, and on that clip there was a individual who looked clearly to be foreign, and he had a side helmet on, so it was obviously, to my mind, maybe a Deliveroo driver, etc. So almost certainly doing something wrong, because many of them aren't working legally. And he was being arrested, right? And the police officer was struggling to apprehend him. He was resisting arrest, which is a crime. If you're resisting arrest, that is still a crime. If the police want to stop you, or want to or if they're going to arrest you, you've got to comply, right? You've got to comply and fight it later. If you fight it there and then, you're just making things worse for yourself. So anyway, he was resisting arrest. The police officer was struggling, so he pepper sprays him. And then all the comments from women, all of them from women, saying, "Oh, did you have to pepper spray him? Oh, do you have to be so rough with him? Oh, why are you grabbing him?" And all this nonsense, this toxic empathy, which is destroying the West. And it's, as I said, it's always women. All the men were all fine with it. All the men were like, "Yeah, do it." And yes, there is certainly an argument to stop, police overreach or police brutality. But these police officers in Manchester city centre, especially, I'd say, and in London, are very aware that the auditors and citizens journalists are filming them, which is good. They should be filming them and keeping the police in line, making sure they're doing the job and not being corrupt motherfuckers. Because there are corrupt police. I used to date a woman who was an ex-police officer, and that's the reason she left the police force: corruption. And obviously, she's not stupid. She didn't go into details with me, but that was the reason she left. So yeah, we have to be careful with corruption. Make sure people aren't, make sure the police aren't abusing their power. But at the same time, right, we really need to do something with this feminine toxic empathy, where women get upset about something that's nothing to do with them, and all they're doing is making things worse by stopping the police from trying to keep us all safe, especially with what's happening at the minute in the country. All they're doing is just fucking things up by sticking the two penny in. So, if you're one of them kind of women, just back off, man. You are making things worse. If the more you fight on that side, the more the civil war becomes likely. And then the more likely it is that you will have bad things happen to you. Because in every civil war, women are abused. So, if you want to remain safe, keep your nose out of what's happening. Let the police and let the patriots resolve these problems, because it's in your best interest. Where they're going to be the ones that are going to be protecting you, it's going to be our necks on the line. We're going to be the ones that probably lose our lives trying to rectify things. And as I've said in previous videos, I hope there isn't a civil war. I don't want one, but you have to be living on the moon to think that that isn't a very likely scenario, what is coming down the line at us. So you need to start being more clever. And I said this in the other video the other day. last night about capital punishment. A lot of people are still trying to get reinforced, but we have a corrupt government that are putting us in jail for words. So what do you think they're going to do if they have capital punishment as a tool to correct any of us? It's not the time in history at the minute for banging on about capital punishment. Not with Starmer in office. Maybe one day, if we elect a government that are trustworthy, then we can have that conversation, and I'm not going to go die on that hill. So, sort of forgetting my train of thought here a little bit. I've got about 5 things I want to say, but it is definitely the case that the more that women seem to be interacting online on posts and stuff, the more men are starting to like think that we allowed too much to occur, you know. And I'm not somebody who thinks that we should take rights off women and remove the vote, and there are people out there that think that. I'm not really one of them. But all you're doing when you're fucking the country up with your toxic empathy is all you're doing is fanning those flames. You know, the ethno-nats, people like Nick Fuentes and stuff in America. This is where a lot of their fervour and support is coming from people that have had enough of this nonsense. So if you don't want that to occur, like, start being a bit more clever maybe about how you interact online, because people have had enough, and you're standing in the way. You're creating an obstacle for us to get the solutions that we require. And I think I'm sure, I can't remember if it's Gad Saad refers to it as suicidal empathy, that civilizations that are too empathetic adopt counterproductive or maladaptive behaviours in society, which then denigrate that society to the point that it is overthrown or collapses from within. And we can learn this from history. And I was watching a historian the other day, and he was saying that history doesn't repeat. And a bit of a moron, to be honest, to say he's an historian. I think he was a bit of a lefty historian, saying that history doesn't repeat. And yeah, it doesn't repeat word for word, but there are correlations in society. Where does that just come from? There are correlations and trends, and it does rhyme. There are events that occur within history which are then analogous to other events in history, and I would say maybe the outcomes can be different from history, but usually the setup and the problems that persist that cause the changes to occur usually do rhyme, do repeat throughout history. So it's very frustrating to see from the outside. And like I said, it's on that post, the fact that every single comment that had a problem with how the police pepper spraying him, etc., were all female. It just goes to show that, you know, it's you guys fucking things up, not us. A lot of feminists like to say that, like, men are the problem in society, but, you know, there's a big argument to say that things have got worse since women got the vote and got equal pay and entered the workplace. Things have got worse, you know. And as I said, I'm not one of these people that wants to reverse these things, but there are people out there that do. And the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out and lose those rights. You know, I'm saying this from a neutral point. I don't agree with those people, and I'm male. So I'm trying to give you a warning. Just as I warned the feminists like 10 years ago, I said, if you don't stop battering men and not applying equality as it's meant to be applied in your ideology, then all you're going to do is fan the flames of resistance against you. Men are going to resent feminism. And I said that well before the culture war really took hold of everybody. This was like back in 2009, I was telling feminists this. And I was right. Like, look at where things has happened. Feminism is now on the back foot. Woke culture has been defeated. It's not dead, obviously, but it's defeated. The populace, the electorate, have seen the emperor has no clothes. And the more you double down, the more you ensure your own defeat at the hands of the people you don't want to take your rights from you. And just for like the 90th time, I'm going to say that I don't want to take rights off women. I think, you know, on average, men understand politics more and more engaged, obviously, right? We were more to argue otherwise. But women still have the capacity to understand and adapt and change and become better equipped to understand political scenarios. But it's non-conducive to have a segment of your populace which is always acting against the best interests of everybody else, which is what I find a lot of women are doing. They're all too happy to try and put their neck on the line for Abdul and Hassan, even though there's no benefit to them other than they just get a little dopamine release into their brain because, oh, I did something that I thought was right, was the correct thing to do, when in reality all you're doing is fucking things up. And it's very frustrating to see, because there are very intelligent women out there. There are women with their finger on the pulse, but it's took a long while, I think, for a lot of these women to like come out of the woodwork. For so long, it's just been men really that have had their finger on the pulse. I think this is what like Jordan Peterson was saying back in 2016, I think, was it, around about the time he was saying that men can't hold women in check, so just ignore us. They'll only listen to other women. So it's up to women to get their happy sisters in line. And over the last maybe 5 years or so, in some of the like more right-wing groups that I'm in, I've seen more and more women coming into the groups, engaging, agreeing, seeking to understand men and what's happening in society without being a little twerp and getting upset and trying to make it a gender war issue all the time, which is good to see. But at the same time, there's still this lagging. There's still like a train, like on a wedding dress, this train of women which are just like caught in this old concept, this old liberal mindset, and I would broadly identify as a liberal myself. And that's the true definition of liberal, not the definition you Americans use with your own weird cockamamie version of liberalism, which you essentially just mean left wing, when it's not. Liberalism is separate to left wing. I mean, there is overlap, obviously. They're not the same thing. You can have right wing liberals, that's where you get libertarians. Yeah. So I just find it really concerning. I do think things will get better. We are on the correct trajectory, even if things are going slow. And I hope videos like mine might help in some way, even if you only agree with half of what I'm saying. The fact that we need to get hold of the problem without other people being obstinate, getting in the way and being obstructional is definitely becoming a very pertinent issue in society. And many of us, again, stick to the back teeth of it, and this is why you're getting men saying they want to take the vote away from women again. So, you're going to have to start being a bit more clever about it, otherwise things are going to get bad for you. But I'm going to leave the video here anyway. See you in the next one. Toodaloo.